So we'll get it kicked on off over here with a few different things that I have been working on in the background. I know I've told everyone that we would have this prepared, and it's a labor of love, you can say, which is getting some ancillary product training so that way y'all have a centralized location where you can go ahead and learn about it, right? And learn about the ancillary products, how to sell them, what scripting, give me the words to say and I'll say them. And that was really the objective for me is can I build something where agents have the ability to just plug in, sit down in a formal training and learn about all of these different products that we've got, right? So for me, I just want to make sure that all of y'all have that centralized location and centralized place to go ahead and get that aspect going. So I'll go over a few different things today that we've got. So some of the different things that I hear when I'm talking about training calls is the products and the belief in the product itself. So let's talk about the belief in the product. Like, what does that mean to me? What does that mean to you as an insurance agent that's out there selling these products? Well, first and foremost, you can never in your entire life sell something that you do not believe in. Okay, so the first and most important thing is in your mind, this product, a product that you would buy yourself or buy for a family member that you know, right? That's the first thing. So you have to answer that for every single product. I have to answer that for Medicare supplements, Medicare Advantage, prescription drug plans, short-term home health care, short-term care. I have to answer that for dental plans. I have to answer that for hospital indemnity plans. I have to answer that for annuities, term insurance, traditional whole life insurance. I have to answer that for every single product that I sell. And if the answer is no on any of those particular products, then I can't provide that service to my clients, right? Because I don't believe in it. I don't, I'm going out there and in my mind, that would mean that it's unethical, right? Internally, that's a internal dilemma that I would have ethically. So I would say to myself, is this something that makes sense to me? And the first thing that I had an agent that I was training yesterday and coaching with them is I just asked them to do something so simple. Is I literally said, listen, write this down for me and in about 10 minutes, call me back. Okay, this is what I want you to write down. I want you to write down, I want to provide this product to my clients because. I want to provide this product to my clients because, and I'm not a parrot. I said that 2 times just in case y'all wanted to write it down. So what I mean by that is that I want the agent to say, I'm going to provide this service to my client. I want to provide this product to my client, but why? Right? How would the same question that I ask clients as how would this have helped you in the past if you already had this product in place? You were someone you loved, right? Now I got to have agents answer that same question before they even go and try and do a presentation to clients. Okay, so here's where we came up with and the story that he had told me. And I was like, this is an amazing story right here. And I'm not going to give you names or anything along those lines, but I'll give you some details on a story that really, really resonated and made sense. And this one was in regards to the short-term healthcare product. I was like, that's amazing. Like this is the story is absolutely the clear definition of why this product exists, right? So I want you to have what we discuss as logical and emotional certainty. Okay. So your logical certainty and your emotional certainty are so incredibly important. And what does that mean? Okay. So in our mind, we have this logical certainty, which means I'm going to look at how much the premium is and I'm going to look at how much coverage they get. And if they're paying $700 a month for a $5,000 life insurance policy, that's not going to click. I can't do that internally. My logical certainty stops me right there. I'm like, the math just doesn't make sense, right? Like, how could that make sense at all? It's $700 a month for $5,000 of insurance. That can't click. I just don't feel comfortable selling that. Okay. So, whereas if that policy was $50 a month, you're like, oh, logically in my mind, using facts and figures, the math makes sense, right? So it's like, what is that? 8.5 years, 10 years, whatever it is for them to reach that actual premium. So the insurance company's saying, hey, listen, $5,000 divided by 50, if you live for over 8 years, right, then you win. If you live less than 8 years, then we win. right? That's what they're saying, right? That's called actuaries. That's how they do the math. So I got to come up with facts and figures and say, hey, does this make sense? And if the answer is yes, internally, then I can proceed to say emotional certainty, right? The next one. Okay, so emotional certainty. So emotionally, I've already used the facts and figures part, but emotionally, I have to say, does this product right here, is this something I would sell to my own mother? Is this something I would have sold to my grandparents when they were alive? Right? Is this something that I would have done? And the answer is so simple on dental plans, right? It's like, yeah, I own dental plans. The answer for me is so simple on cancer, heart attack, and stroke and hospital indemnity plans. I own those products. I've bought them. I'm a believer in them, right? One in two men get cancer, one in three women get cancer. You better have a policy. And a standalone policy, you're going to get more value than just a rider on a traditional policy, right? So on just a hospital indemnity plan. So the agent came back to me and he said, listen, let me tell you the story. Okay. I was like, all right. So we sit back and he starts telling me a story and he starts telling me how his grandfather was ended up being hospitalized and was in a nursing home for about a year. Okay. And ended up passing away in a little bit less than that 12-month window. He ended up getting Alzheimer's, right? And that's just a deterioration of the brain, right? It's really horrific disease. I went through it personally with my grandmother on my father's side. And it took her life in about 5 years from when she started to first show those symptoms of having the disease. And it was really horrific. And he told me about that. And he told me, how she went to go live with or he went to initially live with his uncle, which was his uncle, which would be, the son, right? The child of them. And I'm thinking in my mind, I'm like, gosh, okay, so like a caregiver benefit might have helped. Looking at like, hundreds of dollars a day coming in to help pay for those services of people that they need around because the reality is, the children aren't medical professionals oftentimes. And even if they are, they're working a full-time job. They don't want to come home and then, do another full-time job. It's a lot of work. It's exhausting and it deteriorates their quality of life. The exchange of money for the goods and services, right, of other people is what would help in that scenario, right? So let me exchange money that you're getting for those services rendered, right? For the people that are come in the home, the physical therapist, the nurse, the home health care aide to come help this person every day. It's a major load off the children's plate. So we got to say, okay, would this product have helped in that situation? And that's what I had asked the agent, right? Like, I want to provide this product to my clients because, right? Okay, cool. So he's got that story, and then he continues to tell me the story, and the story just continues. And how it continues is based on that real life experience of what ended up happening is that his wife, his that would be his grandmother, right? So his grandfather, and then his grandfather's wife ends up also needing nursing home level of care at the same time, right? So she ends up going in the same facility, but in different wards or different divisions, right, of the actual nursing home. So what happens? Like they want to see each other. I mean, they've been married for like 50 something years, and it's heartbreaking, and you're gonna die. You guys know it, right? There's no real disease for it, but a broken heart causes death sometimes earlier for the spouse, the surviving spouse. So what that means to me is that this individual, right, his grandmother is now in a nursing home as well as the grandfather. They still can't see each other. So the family's going in there and fighting for like, hey, can you put them together, close to each other? That way they're with each other and they can see each other every single day. And they end up ultimately doing that, right? Which has worked out great for them, for the husband and wife. So I think it was about 10 months that total that went by, and the husband ends up passing away, unfortunately. And then less than a year later, the wife died. She ended up also getting Alzheimer's, which is crazy story overall. And it was just sad. It was really a heartbreaking story. And the agent told me that because it was a story of how he firmly believed that this would have helped the their family tremendously. And then he explains to me the arguments of his parents and, his uncles and his uncle and, that what they went through and the difficulty there. And I'm like, gosh, one thing that you don't even think of is all the nuances that go into it. Like all the small things. And it's the little things that add up and compound. which is just like the basic things of like, who's going to do dad's laundry? Who's going to put the dishes, take the dishes from the sink and put them in the dishwasher or clean them and then clean them, dry them and put them away. And who's gonna, not only do the laundry, but you got to put the laundry in, then you got to transfer the laundry, then you got to take the laundry out and you got to fold the laundry, right? So there's a lot of nuances just to that, and that's a time consuming thing. And then who's going to be there on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday? How are we going to divvy this up so we can help our parents as they get towards those later stages in life, right? And it's like those are great questions. And I didn't think of all of those millions of nuances of the things that go into it until you experience it yourself. So I'm thinking in my mind, I'm like, wow, that is a really powerful thing for me to just revisit that because I forget, right? I forget how it felt when I was in the hospital with my sister, right? Before she passed away. Like, I forget those things. I don't want to relive them, right? I forget what experiences that I've been through. And when you start to think about it, you're like, oh my Lord, like that would have been a real saving grace. I mean, maybe they would be alive. Maybe they would have just had a better quality at the end of their life. And maybe that little difference makes a tremendous difference. Because the reality was, when he had asked the question, when we were talking, is like, would they have rather been, in their own home receiving that care so they didn't have to leave each other and they had people coming to the house to help them? Would they rather have done that than, kind of being stuck in that nursing home and 6 months, 10 months later, they end up passing away and maybe they live longer and a better quality of life at home? And the answer was yes. I was like, you're right. Yeah, that would be amazing. Would have been a game changer. I probably would have been happier too. Like they were happy for the 50 something years that they were married. And that to me is the story that speaks to your inner being, to your soul. And you're like, then you have a mission right there. That's what companies call a mission statement, right? They call a mission statement because it's what are the core values of a company? What are the cultures of a company? And how do those core values and those cultures of the company, how do they ultimately end up defining the the company as a whole, but within the company, the individuals? And now I think that agent who is struggling a little bit sees the purpose of why we do what we do and how the solutions that we can provide are genuinely and truly sound solutions, beautiful solutions, and how these outcomes can drastically change people's lives for tens of dollars a month, for one-time payments. For only $85 a month, that family would have got, when we ran the numbers, $85 a month, that family would have got $108,000 a year, 360 days. And if they got out of the hospital and they didn't need nursing home level of care and they were recovered, right? They left the nursing home, they're recovered now, they don't need it, and they don't use it for 180 days, 6 months, the benefit resets. And then they get to use it again, right? So how great is that? I mean, sometimes people, they don't go into a nursing home just to pass away. They go into some type of facility because they can't do certain activities of daily living, right? And because of whatever incident had occurred, or a broken hip, something severe, right? A stroke, and they can't walk anymore and they can't, go to the bathroom by themselves, get out of the bed by themselves, right? And then ultimately over time, they recover, right? And they can recover well and they can be a functioning member of society again. And they have that quality of life back that they didn't have when they were in the nursing home. And that might take 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. But guess what? It's paid for. Now, no one's arguing. No kids are upset, right? And the money goes right to them, and then they clip the check, and they then pay the people that need to be paid to give them that quality of life. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to build a training around this, right? How do I communicate that message clearly? And that's what marketing is, right? Marketing is getting the word out there to people, right? Explaining to people why these things are important. The difficulty I think sometimes that agents run into is they have a difficulty pitching all the products, right? But it's not that you don't pitch all the products. That's the thing, is these are organic conversations that we have. And the organic conversations, what the growth of that conversation is the huge factor for us. So let's talk about that. Okay. So let's talk about what I have here in module 4, which is the compliance checklist, right? I thought that was just so incredibly simple. And why? Well, in the call opening, we ask these super simple questions on a Medicare Advantage sale, right? Because remember, this is this is a senior market sale, it's a Medicare client, can be under. But one of those questions that we ask at the end is a very simple question that we're required to ask. Are you currently confined to a skilled nursing facility or long-term care facility? And they're like, nope. Okay. If you had to be confined to a skilled nursing facility or long-term care facility, do you have any insurance in place to help pay for that? That is a lead-in question. And then you organically allow that to grow through the conversation, right? So you don't have to just stay there. You just check it. They said no. Okay, great. And then you progressively go through that. And then if someone had cancer in the past and the insurance company says, hey, if you had cancer, you can't buy a cancer policy. Well, I'm just going to mark that one off my list internally, right? And say, I'm not going to discuss that product. If they've been hospitalized recently and they start telling you a story about that, right? That would probably be the path I'd go down. I'd be like, well, the hospital indemnity plan probably makes sense, right? A short-term health care plan with a hospital indemnity rider, that probably makes sense. So I allow this stuff to grow organically, and I want to allow them to connect the dots themselves, right? I want them to connect the dots as to why this product would serve them and why when they look at their bank statement, there's two things that they're going to think when they look at their bank statement. One of two things that they're going to look at. They get one check a month, one bank statement a month. They look at it and they look at it like this. Okay, XYZ insurance company, $85 a month. And this is their thought, right? It's the thought of all of us. Your bills get tight, you got to cut stuff, right? So they look at their bills, they write it down, even if it's not, they're just getting their bank statement, they see their deposit's $85 less. Why? Okay. Oh, wow. That's $85 a month, right? That's one thought relative to, wow, that's only $85 a month. All right, so I want you to have that consideration in your mind of what the consumer is going to see and the impact on them when they see that Social Security check $85 less a month. That's powerful. So think of that. How do they view the product? Have you established enough value to say that when they see it come out of their bank account, they're going to be like, wow, it's only $85 a month and I get $108,000 in value if I ever use it. And in fact, I don't even want you to use the coverage. I don't want you to use most insurance. I don't want you to use car insurance. That means you get into a car accident. Definitely don't want you to use it. But you have it there. There's a whole saying in Texas is you never know you need a gun until you know you need a gun, right? So with that said, I have questions throughout my scripting that's going to help me, right? So I already know that there's pathways that I can lead down based on the conversation. And I don't like force the conversation to go that direction, but I'm going to ask them questions, lead-in questions. Those lead-in questions are what's going to enable me to understand their situation. And once I understand their situation, right, then I can make a decision. Because right off the bat, sometimes people call in, you get to the house, whatever it is, and what do they always say? What's this all about? Right? It's like, I don't want to change anything. I don't even know you. I just met you. Like, how, I can't even make that decision right now. I can't even tell you if you should make a change or not. I have no idea what you have, right? My job's really simple. What I do is I get a little bit of information, I put it into the system, and I show you what you qualify for, right? And one or two things are going to happen. One, you're going to look at that plan, okay? And I'm going to look at the system, and I'm going to say, hey, listen, I think, this is my opinion for someone that's doing it for, coming up on almost 13 years, over a decade. I think that you're in the best situation possible. And I wouldn't recommend that you make a change. And what I would say is that if anyone tells you otherwise, they're probably just trying to sell you something. But what I can tell you is that every single year during annual enrollment period, plans change. Doctors may or may not take your insurance. Hospitals may or may not take your insurance. The list of drugs that they cover may not cover your drugs, or they may give you more options of prescription drugs that are lower cost. How much you pay when you go see the specialist may go up. If you needed to take an ambulance, that cost may go up or it may go down, right? How much you pay when you go to the hospital. That may go up or that may go down. Like, I don't know. But what I do know is that if you're in the best situation, I'm just going to tell you, is that all right with you? And they're going to say, yes, of course that's all right with me. Now that barrier, right, that wall goes down, right? That crossed arms, they're now more receptive to the message. So I'm like, all right, great. Well, that makes sense. Okay. And the second thing is, listen, what I'll do once I put the information in the system and show you what you qualify for, what I'll do is I'll go ahead and I'll look at all the different options in the area. And if there is something that may put a little bit more money in your pocket and take less money out of your pocket, my job is just to explain that to you. And then you do what you want with that information. Is that fair? Okay, great. So what I need you to do real quick is if you just grab that red, white, and blue card, I'll get to work and I'll start fighting for you. And then I shut up. I pause. Now I let them go do their thing. When they come back with it, and they're like, I don't have it. It's like, okay, great. It's not a problem at all. You know what would make it 10 times easier? I'll look it up by social. Go ahead. Pause. I shut up and I let them give me the information. If there's an objection, I'll handle the objection. Right. So for us, we want to have a sales framework. You know, it's a work in progress. It's very time consuming, as you can imagine. We've got 8 different modules that we're putting together here. The transitional framework, you know, how do you transition from one product to another, right? If you're starting with Medicare, how do you transition to that, from that to this? If you're starting with life insurance, how do you transition? They don't want the life insurance. Well, what about other products? I'm not just going to give up if they don't want it, right? Ancillary products, matching the product to the gap, right? Like, where is the problem that they have and how can I provide a solution? The Medicare quick reference refresher, right? You get into this and you might just want a little refresher on the Medicare side. Compliance training, just a little bit of compliance stuff. Like, listen, you can't send a text message if you're doing telesales to your cell phone with the PIN code for the client. That, like, come on, you can't do that stuff. Can't create an email for a client. The transitional conversation, which is going to be the scripts and the objections, that'll be module 5. Module 6 is enrollment and application mechanics, right? Getting it signed. How do you do the PIN code? How do you do a voice sig? Things along those lines. Module number 7 over here is systems and tools, important stuff. And then module number 8 is the most important thing that you're always doing, which is the ongoing development. You're always studying, you're always learning. How do you do that? Where are the resources to do that? So those things. And those things, I am talking through them. And the great thing that I have, which is really beautiful, is I've got AI to help me do it this time around, right? I have note takers that can surmise the conversation. And I read these things after I printed out my framework. I make my framework and I talk to my AI for, 10 minutes. And then we come up with the structure of it and we make adjustments. And I just talk out loud to build the scripts, right? Which makes it 10 times easier than trying to think of typing it all, right?